My name is Ellie, I'm 26, and I still remember the exact sound the front door made when my father slammed it behind them. I was 18, pregnant, standing in my parents' living room while they told me I had until the end of the week to leave. Keep the baby, they said, and you're no longer our daughter. I kept the baby. 7 years later, on the morning of my courthouse wedding, my parents walked back through the doors, unannounced, asking to meet their granddaughter. What I pulled out of my purse next changed the entire conversation. If you truly love and appreciate your parents, take just 1 second to subscribe to this channel. It means a lot to us. And before you go, tell me in the comments, which country are you watching from? I won't pretend the years after weren't hard. I was 18, no savings, a part-time grocery job, and a body slowly becoming a home for someone else. I couch surfed for 2 months until my coworker, Diane, a woman with a spare room and a soft heart, told me I could stay as long as I needed. I cried in her kitchen that night, not from sadness, from forgetting what kindness felt like from someone who owed me nothing. My daughter was born on a Tuesday in March, 7 years ago. I named her Rosie. 5 pounds 9 ounces, the loudest cry I'd ever heard. The nurse laid her on my chest, and all I could think was that I would burn the world down for this person. My parents weren't in that room. Nobody called them. There was nothing to call about, as far as I was concerned. I finished my GED, then started community college at night while Diane watched Rosie. Better job, then a better one. By the time Rosie was 2, we had our own one-bedroom apartment, secondhand couch, cereal for dinner, more nights than I'd admit. But it was ours, and that mattered more than I can explain. I met Connor when Rosie was 4, a shift supervisor at the warehouse where I temped. Quiet, steady, remembered small things. How I take my coffee, the name of Rosie's stuffed rabbit. When I told him about my parents on our third date, he didn't flinch, just nodded and said, "Their loss." That was it. That might have been the exact moment I started falling for him. He and Rosie found their own rhythm, and one evening, out of nowhere, she called him Dad, and neither of them made a big deal of it. I had to look away from the table before I started crying into my pasta. We got engaged last spring, nothing fancy, kitchen floor, down on one knee. We planned a small courthouse wedding, just us, Diane, Connor's brother Nate, and Rosie in a yellow dress she'd picked herself. The morning of the wedding, I woke up early with something buzzing under my skin, not nerves exactly. On the counter sat an envelope I'd been ignoring for 3 days, no return address, but I recognized the handwriting instantly, my mother's. 6 weeks earlier, I'd ordered a DNA test, not for any dramatic reason I'd fully admitted to myself. Mostly because Rosie had started asking about grandparents, about where she came from. I'd told her the truth simply, that some families are built by choice, not blood. But something in me needed the actual paperwork. I opened it that morning, standing in my kitchen in my wedding dress, read the first line, then folded it back up and slid it into my purse. I didn't know yet why I did that. I would understand exactly why a few hours later. We got to the courthouse just after 10. Connor had pressed his shirt 3 times over a wrinkle only he could see. Rosie was spinning in her yellow dress in the lobby. Diane had flowers, Nate had a camera, and then, through the glass doors, I saw them, my mother, my father, walking toward me like 7 years was nothing, like a slammed door had never happened. I didn't feel small. I felt very, very still. My mother reached me first, older now, softer around the face, gray at the temples. My father hung back half a step, letting her lead the way he always did. And the first words out of her mouth weren't hello, weren't I'm sorry, weren't congratulations. They were, "We want to meet our granddaughter." Not Rosie. Not, "We've been thinking about you." Just their granddaughter, a possession they'd decided to claim, 7 years too late, on a day that belonged entirely to me and Connor. Connor went very still beside me. I touched his arms for him once, just to let him know I had this. He didn't move, just stayed close. That was enough. I asked my mother how they'd even known we'd be here. My father cleared his throat and explained some distant cousin had seen Nate post something online, a thread they'd pulled until it led to us. It didn't matter. What mattered was what came next. My mother said my name the way you'd pick something fragile up off the floor, testing whether it still worked. We made mistakes. We know that. But she's our blood. We have a right, I told her, calmly, not cruelly, just as fact. You don't. My father stepped forward, looking at Rosie, who'd stopped spinning and moved close to Diane, watching the adults with that sharp look she gets whenever something feels off. 7 years old and already better at reading a room than most adults I know. He said, "She looks like your mother." And something cracked open in his voice I hadn't expected. Something almost like grief. That's when I remembered the envelope in my purse. Maybe it was the certainty in how he said it. Maybe it was 7 years of silence finally pressing back. I reached in, pulled it out, and held it toward my mother. She took it the way people take things when they don't yet know they shouldn't. She unfolded it, read the first line, and I watched the color drain completely out of her face. Her hand pressed flat against her collarbone. My father leaned in, read over her shoulder, and murmured something to no one in particular. That's not my. He never finished the sentence. He didn't need to. The results weren't what anyone in that lobby expected, myself included. A partial match through a secondary database I'd added almost on a whim pointed not to my father as Rosie's biological grandfather, but to a completely different family line, one that traced back through my mother instead. What that implied about decades of things she'd kept quiet just hung there in the air between us. I won't say I felt satisfaction. It was something closer to release, like a knot I'd carried in my shoulders for years had finally quietly come undone. Because this moment was never really about them. It never had been. I took the envelope back, folded it, put it away, and turned to Connor. Ready? He offered his arm. Rosie took my other hand. Diane was already dabbing her eyes. We walked toward the courtroom and didn't look back. The ceremony took 11 minutes. Rosie stood between us, holding both our hands during the vows. Completely unplanned. And it remains one of the best things that has ever happened to me. When it was over, my parents were already gone from the lobby. I don't know when they left. I didn't ask. That afternoon, we went to a diner, all 5 of us, and Rosie ordered chocolate pancakes because it was a special occasion. I said yes, because it absolutely was. She had syrup on her chin through the whole meal, and I didn't say a word about it because some moments you just let be exactly what they are.